All right, so now we move on to the second round. We have we'll go over picks 31 to 40. We have the Timberwolves at 31 picking Hugo Gonzalez, a wing from Real Madrid. The Celtics at 32 taking Maxi Renault, the center from Stanford. 33, the Charlotte Hornets take Tyrese Proctor, guard from Duke. Um, Number 34, we have the Hornets taking Bogo Markovic from Mega in the Adriatic League. He's a thin power forward. The Sixers at 35 take Chaz Lanier, the shooting guard from Tennessee. At 36, again, the Nets. Now, we're assuming they're not going to keep all these picks. But surely, if they were going to, they would take someone of size. Somewhere in this, the range where they have multiple picks between like 25 and this pick. But here we have them taking Cam Jones of Marquette, combo guard. Number 37, we have the Pistons taking French wing, small forward, Noah Penda. At 38, we have the Spurs taking Jameer Watkins, Florida State wing. At number 39, we have the Raptors going for Ryan Kalkbrenner, center from Creighton. And at 40, we have the Wizards taking Kobe Brea, wing from Kentucky. My thoughts here. I gave you one of them already. I think the Nets, if they did keep this pick, or maybe they do things a little differently if they knew, but we're basically having them take kind of best player available. But personally, in my opinion, I would take Kalkbrenner over Cam Jones anyway. But let's see here. I really like Maxi. I think he could be a really productive center in the league for a number of years. Hugo Gonzalez has a lot of upside, big wing, but he's really inefficient at this point. But again, he's only 19 years old. Chaz Lanier, I love that pick for the Sixers. I think Chaz Lanier is very highly underrated in this draft. Athletic, can shoot, can handle. Yeah, those are my thoughts. So, Cam, what are you thinking?
Oh, there's a lot of guys in this section of the draft that I really love. Hugo Gonzalez, it feels like we've been talking about him forever. I do like the upside there. Chaz Lanier, I think, is maybe the steal of the draft, especially if he goes second round. There's an argument he's the best shooter in the draft. Shoots at a high volume, can shoot off pin downs, isolation, off the dribble. He's got actual size to play the two. I think you would like to see him develop a little bit more of that on-ball point guard game than what he showed at Tennessee. But if you watch his tape from when he was in Florida, he played a lot more point guard for them.
North Florida.
Yeah, North. That's what I mean. Well, yeah, like he was in the state of Florida. But yeah, I just think I don't see a world in which Lanier misses, honestly. He's athletic. He has a plus wingspan. He can defend at least average for an NBA wing. I think it's a home run pick at 35. Penda, I really like a lot. He's kind of a weird fit in the NBA system. Really big dude.
Too big in my estimation.
Like shooting. Yeah, he could probably lose a little bit of weight. But I think defensively, I really like what he brings to the table. He's got good feet. He uses his body very well to sort of like seal people, out of driving lanes. Like he really just kind of manhandles people out of the paint. Offensively, he's got some upside. He's handled the ball a little bit more for Lamont than like what you would expect for a guy his size. So I think, if you get anything out of him offensively, you're probably pretty happy. He's a really good rebounder too. I love Jameer Watkins. I don't understand why
he's
the show so deep in the draft here.
It's his
Um,
age. It's his age. That's solely what
I
it.
mean, yeah, but people have like accepted that Neat Clifford should probably go high in the first
Yeah,
round, though. So it's
good
like,
point. Good
at
point.
what point do we stop caring about age, you know? But I just think like, first off, great combine showing, excellent, excellent, excellent play in game two. One of the better wing defenders in the draft,
Hmm.
which just off the bat, he's good enough on offense that it is worth it to have him out there for his defense, right? I think offensively, the one real
Good
question mark I have
rebounder
on him,
too.
yeah, good rebounder, very much an all-around contributor. I think he has a lot of playmaking upside, like as a secondary guy.
Hmm.
He's got really good rotation vision, like finding those holes in defenses as they try and work out problems. Um, he could get a little bit better as a ball handler, a little bit turnover prone, and like honestly, the biggest knock on him is probably shooting selection. But like he's playing in Florida State and they were kind of a mess this year. So it
Oh,
was
they
like
were a
they
total
needed
mess.
somebody to
Yeah.
just go and score. So I just think Watkins is kind of like a can't miss guy in this section of the second round. Like I would consider him a first rounder talent in most years, at least end of the first. So I think that's a crazy value at 38.
I was surprised he pulled out of the draft last year. Really was. I thought he'd stay in. Um, so maybe that actually hurt him because he got another year older, but his production really didn't change a lot. So yeah. Drew, your thoughts here?
Uh, I second everything Cam said about Jameer. I have long been a guy who's, been a proponent of older guys. When you start getting that like end of lottery in the 20s, like I again, Cam hit the nail on the head here. It's like discount Neat Clifford, but there's almost a plus side of we saw Jameer Watkins do a lot of things in that realm and do it at a higher level of, competition. He did it at, a high major, a power five. So there's a lot to like in terms of like you've seen it. The combine he showed it again and just kind of reminded us. So really like that pick there. Going on I'll focus a little bit more on the top two guys here. I did the scout for us for Hugo, Rich, when you were signing guys, and I totally agree. That game was so interesting to watch because that first half he was entirely deferential. He didn't take his first shot in that game. I made note until 3:07 left in the third, and the game was turning into a blowout. So he got a lot of run, and it was really interesting. Anytime he had the ball in his hands and made a quick, decisive action, good things happened. He got into the paint, either finished, kicked out. The moment he tried to start dancing with guys, the moment he tried to do too much, which a lot of these young guys do, it almost was always bad. It was a turnover. It was a bad shot. It was a late shot. Defensively, he's got to the discipline is just not there. There were a lot of times he'd make really, really great like 8-second defensive stands on guys and then reach in for no reason, commit a foul. And it's like, dude, that cannot happen when you wall a guy up at the free throw line and he's looking for help and then he shoots a follow three and you jump into him. Probably not a great look. But I definitely liked what I saw. I think he's one of those guys like early first round, you take him and you're like, or early second round, you take him and you're like, the raw potential is there. He's 19 years old. He is playing in a high level league. Like this is one of those guys where I can imagine if he was playing at a lower level, we'd be talking about a guy averaging 20 plus points a game and dominating. And he just so happened. I mean, for a guy to have to take a shot until almost 3 minutes left in the third tells you what his role on that team is. But I liked what I saw, but he's still at that age where the game has to be simple. And when it is, almost always good things happened. The moment he tried to do too much, not so much. And then I agree with you, Rich. I think Maxime, the Celtics is kind of a match made in heaven for them. I think I mentioned that when we were looking at Yang, that it was like Maxime, Kalkbrenner, and him were like the three centers I was looking at. And I think both guys ended up where they needed to be. I think for a Suns team that needs just to kind of accumulate talent and upside, if they are going to rebuild, Hanson makes sense. But I think Ray knows, look, they're going to be really thin, especially with Tatum out that 4-5. I mean, Horford's just at the point where it's like, he still finds a way to be productive, but if you're trotting him out to absorb major minutes, you're probably not feeling great. Porzingis is unfortunately is what he is at this point. You can pencil in 30 games and everything else is a crapshoot at that point. He doesn't have the same defensive upside that duo has. He's not the rim protector; those guys are. He's not going to sit there and terrify people on the interior. But offensively, he's super polished. He's everything you want offensively in a modern big. where he's comfortable at all three levels. He will rebound. He's not going to be a dominant. I think like people kind of misconstrue, 10 rebounds a game for being a great rebounder. He's not getting in there and ripping boards away from people and, then going back up and dunking on you, but he will clear the glass. He's not going to just shoot a three and then, watch it. He's not going to just get abused down low. So I just think that's a really good fit. I think that has the, I think he's another like a Jameer guy where it's like he probably is a first round talent, but you just have to wait when you wager in guys like upside and you start looking at guys, do I want Ben Stroff or Maxime Reyno? I get why one's a second round and one's a first, but on pure ability, I think Maxime's definitely a first round big. And then I also did the scout on Markovic, and he's super interesting to me. Like his frame needs a lot of work,
Yeah.
but like he's almost like he's actually, in my opinion, the complete antithesis to Behringer. They actually played each other like one of the games I watched. He's the complete antithesis. The
A
jump
lot of
shot looks
skill.
the jump shot looks super pure. He gets up and down the court. He has the agility and lateral quickness of a guy that you can see being able to jump out at what is he, 6'10"? I think they have him listed at 6'11", but I think he's like 6'10" is what he tested at more officially. But he was like jumping out on the perimeter. He was running transition, could finish with either hand, but then there were like great drive to the basket, but gets pushed off his spot because he's so thin and he's short on the layup. Gets a little bit bullied down low. I think Behringer actually had one where he like ripped an offensive rebound away from him, but like he definitely he needs a year or two for sure. But I think everything checks the box for that guy to be like a really, really good like stretch four kind of player. I wasn't impressed at the raw box score, but like I said, unlike Behringer, I was like, man, there's a lot to like here if he can just pack on like 15 to 20 pounds over the next like 2 years. I like what I see.
Yeah, highly skilled player. Joey, your thoughts on picks 31 through 40?
Yeah, only a few guys I really wanted to bring up because we covered most of it. I really like Tyrese Proctor. I'm just really in on everyone on that Duke team. I think they just played such good basketball. And Proctor, I like that he's been around a while. He's kind of like a veteran rookie just because he's been playing college ball for a minute now. And the Hornets have had so much like they have had so many problems in the backup guard position. I mean, like last year, KJ Simpson and Damian Baugh and Seth Curry, those were their guards off the bench. So I think having someone like Proctor that gives them a little bit more offensive upside, someone that, we know can run the offense, I think that's going to be really huge for them. And then the other guys I want to talk about, I really like Kalkbrenner at 39. People have their concerns about his age, whatever, but he can just play. I mean, every time I watch him, he's just a great player. And when I see that, I don't really care about what the critics say, what the scouting, how it translates. If you can play, you can play. And Kalkbrenner, I mean, I feel like, will it translate? I don't know, but he blocks shots, he grabs rebounds, he's a good finisher. Like, I think this late in the draft, if you can get someone with that much production in college, year in, year out
And
against really good competition.
that size.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, Big East Media Day, I spent a lot of time with Ryan, and I know you hear announcers say this all the time, but if I don't like a guy, I wouldn't say something like this. But one of the nicest kids I've ever met. Just, I mean, here's three-time defensive player of the year, and I think he was also preseason player of the year. And everybody's hovering around Connecticut. So he could have just probably taken off or whatever. I was the only person hanging around the Creighton table, and he and Stephen Ashworth both spent like 15, 20 minutes with me. So, he has always going to, I thought that was really cool that they did that.
Yeah. And then the last guy I wanted to mention was Kobe Brea. I'm a firm believer if you're going to be over 6'4" and you can shoot the ball, you will have a spot in the league. And I don't think there are many people that can shoot the ball like Kobe Brea in this draft class. I mean, I'm still having PTSD from that game against Illinois in March Madness. I had Illinois winning, and he just refused to miss. He's a fantastic shooter. At 6'7", he has tremendous size. I just like he's gonna carve out a nice role for himself in the league. I mean, I feel like there's starting to be a theme with my picks, but I like these role playing shooters. I think those guys just carve out roles in the NBA. If you're taking a draft pick, especially this late, and you're like, my goal, I don't need a superstar or whatever. I just need a player that is going to be an efficient player on my team. That's going to be a good role player. Just someone that isn't going to be a liability. Someone that's just going to be a solid NBA player. I think if you go with the
right,
shooter,
with Kalkbrenner you're going to get block shots. With Brea you're going to get threes, and
right.
that they can do it at a high level. You don't have any doubts about them. At a minimum, you already know what their ceiling is.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I mean, excuse me, their floor is.
Right.
You know what their floor is, and if you get anything more than that, you're happy.
Yeah. And I know we touched on this earlier, but I feel like scouts time and again will pass up on players that had good college production because he was good in college, but here's this international guy that's younger and didn't have the production but has potential. I believe you take the guy that can play. And Kobe Brea, we know he can shoot the ball at an incredibly high level. Kalkbrenner, we know he can block shots and grab boards. So I think those two guys could be steals in this draft for sure.
Right. So we're running a little long. So we're going to try to speed things up here at the end, and we're going to group picks 41 through 59 together. And there are only 59 picks because the Knicks forfeited pick 56. So they will not get a pick, and I don't remember what shenanigans that was, but it doesn't really matter. So starting at pick 41, we have the Warriors, and they go for Janiah Broome from the center from Auburn. At 42, the Kings take Hunter Salas from Wake Forest, shooting guard, probably could play a little point guard. 43, we have the Jazz taking Alex Tui, a big wing, small forward, probably could even play a little power forward, out of Sydney, played for Sydney and Australia this year. At 44, the Thunder get another draft pick. I doubt they're going to keep all these draft picks. They don't have much room on the roster. They take point guard, combo guard, Sion James out of Duke. Pick 45, the Bulls take Elias Camardine from Dijon. That is a wild card pick. And he is a combo guard who played in the French league this year. And Camp's definitely going to have to talk about that pick because you won't see his name anywhere else on the web. Number 46, the Magic take another Australian player, Rocco Zukarski, a big 7'3" center played for Brisbane this past season. Pick 47, the Bucks take Javon Small, West Virginia point guard. Pick 48, the Grizzlies take John Tunji from Wisconsin, a high-scoring wing. Pick 49, the Cavaliers take center Yannick Niedenhauser out of Penn State, tested out really well, but hasn't necessarily, that athleticism doesn't show up on the court all the time. Pick number 50, the Knicks take Micah Peavy of Georgetown, a nice-sized wing, improved his shooting this year. That was always been his downside, really can play defense. Number 51, the Clippers take Izan Amanza, another Australian player. Amanza is actually Spanish native, but he played in the Australian League this year. Also played in G League Ignite a couple years ago. He is a power forward. Might talk a little more about him. The Suns at pick 52 take RJ Lewis, the Big East MVP this year, a nice athletic wing. Number 53, the Jazz take Grant Nelson of Alabama, power forward. Is he another workout warrior or is he for real? That jump shot's got to improve. I know that much. Pick 54, the Pacers take Ryan Nebhard, and seems like a really good pick now that Tyrese Halliburton is hurt. Maybe Cam will talk a little bit about that one, or maybe Drew will. The Lakers at pick 55 take Big Cliff Amore, friend of the show, the center from Alabama. Lakers can add to their collection of 13 other centers that never get on the floor. The Grizzlies at pick 56 take Tamar Bates, Missouri shooting guard, probably could play a little bit at the point. The Magic at pick 57 take it Peyton Sanford of Iowa, the small forward who injured his shoulder. Probably won't be ready. Definitely won't be ready for Summer League, but probably should be ready for preseason action. We shall see. Pick 58, another friend of the show, Max Shulga. The Cavaliers take Max, the combo guard out of Virginia Commonwealth. And number 59, the Suns finish up the draft by taking Lachlan Albrecht, a also played in the Australian League this year, was probably the biggest winner at the Combines, played super efficiently in both the G League Elite Camp and the NBA Combine. So, gentlemen, I'll just go through, I'll just look over this list and see if I have any specific comments. I really like Tui. Joey likes those role players. Well, Tui is a player you'll like. Versatile, can play multiple positions, pretty good athlete. Got to improve some as a shooter, but yeah. In terms of Almanza, he's interesting in that he's a really good athlete for his size. He's like about 6'8", about 210, I believe. He really has played a lot of power forward in center, but he more has the game of a small forward. So, and he really needs to get a jump shot. Grant Nelson, as I said, really always does really well at the combines and the athletic testing, and had a solid, career with Alabama. And he was also at North Dakota, Drew, or North Dakota State.
Sorry,
Grant Nelson.
North Dakota State.
I thought it was South Dakota State.
Yeah, South Dakota State is
the Jackrabbits. He was at North Dakota State.
That's Baylor Shireman.
Baylor Shireman, yeah. He was at North Dakota State.
Yeah, I thought it was North Dakota State. But anyway, the big thing about, to me, I don't question Nelson's athleticism, of course, but I do question that jump shot that never really has seemed to improve during his time at Alabama. Yeah, so I guess, and Amore, Big Cliff, great shot blocker, super athlete, doesn't do much else, probably won't ever do much else. But if you want a guy to protect the rim, I think he's one of the best in this draft. And I'll leave it at that and start with you, Drew. What are your thoughts on picks 41 through 59?
Yeah, I'll start off. Richie touched on him, Tui. I like to call him the one that got away. He was quite literally all but guaranteed to go to Gonzaga and ended up not getting on the plane because his club made like kind of a last ditch financial pitch to him. And this was right before the whole NIL thing really took off and whatnot. So I got really familiar with him, thinking I was going to be rooting for him. And he is exactly what we were missing this year at that 4 spot. But I really like his versatility. The shooting kind of has to figure itself out a little bit to be more viable. But I think he gives you, especially at that 3-4 spot, he'll give you the competitive defense. He will work on the boards. He's not like a shot. He's not going to like hunt shots. He's not going to do anything out of his wheelhouse. The 3-point shot, if you can get to the mid-30s, I think this is a guy that's going to stick around for a long time because he just fits what you want today's modern forward because he's not a power. He's not a small. He's both. He's whatever you want. I just really like the versatility he brings. Big thing with him is he doesn't turn it over at all, which is really great to see. Like I think he averaged like 1 turnover a game for a guy that was, young, playing over 20 plus minutes in a competitive league. He's just a really sound basketball player. So really bummed he never got on the plane and made it to Gonzaga, but also pumped to see him, getting draft consideration, which I think 100% this is. I could see him going even maybe not super high, but I could see him being like in the early, like maybe like the late 30s, even creep up for a team that
I
just
could
wants.
I could see him going maybe early 30s actually.
Yeah, I mean, looking at some of these guys, I think he's right in like that. He doesn't have the same production because different league, but he's definitely in that like again that Jameer Watkins-esque mold of guys that can just do a little bit of everything. Has to figure out the shooting. I really like the Cliff Amore pick for the Lakers. We all watched them get. I can't believe I'm saying this. Get abused by Rudy Gobert. So it's like that team did not have a center, and like yes, Cliff is never gonna like he's never going to step out and bang a three. He's never going to put the ball on the deck and throw no look passes from the high post or the blow block. But like he's gonna box out. He's gonna rebound. He's gonna contest everything at the rim. He's probably not a long. He might not be a long term answer, but he's definitely a band aid on that. And maybe he does thrive in that role where he can be a lob threat for Luca, lob threat to LeBron, as long as he's still there. Obviously, I'm gonna touch on Ryan Nembhard. Cam, I don't want to steal your thunder here, man, because I love the I love the pick. But I'm really thankful I don't have to go on some soapbox rant like I did, what was it, 2 years ago with Drew Timmy to end the draft and like try to move myself to tears. Like I totally get the concern. Like I was really high on Andrew. I had Andrew as a first rounder, and he ended up being the first pick of the second round because I thought he was the best point guard in the nation, who was just limited by playing with such stacked rosters where he kind of was more of a role player. Ryan is gonna have a lot of stuff. He's gonna have to buck a lot of concerns. Like the size is legitimate, the defense is legitimate, and the shooting. He is a good shooter, but but again, it's more like good catch and shoot, kind of in a flow. He's not coming down and shaking you off the dribble and shooting. He's not a great finisher at the rim. The passing is phenomenal. So my girlfriend's over there laughing at me right now because she's going the St. Mary's inside of her is boiling, hearing me wax on about Ryan. But the passing is great, and I think this is a great fit for him. How much longer do you expect TJ McConnell to be? I mean, he's 33. I didn't realize he was that old, but he's 33. So if you're looking for a backup point guard to fill that void and run that style of offense, this is your guy. And I think, Cam, you and I have talked about this. Rich, we've talked about this for the 3-4 years we've been doing this together. Like at some point with this type of pick, I'm banking on a guy that was super productive in college. Because at a minimum, I feel pretty confident that I can hand this guy the basketball and have him run offense for 15 minutes in a game, get out on the break, push tempo, and just make some things happen. If you're drafting him to be your lead point guard and play 35 minutes a night, you're probably terrible. But if you're drafting to be your backup for 15 minutes, you could do a lot worse than one of the best passers we've seen in the last, 20 years of college basketball.
Drew, let me ask you one question. What do you think about the pick for the Warriors of Janiah Broome?
Yes. I know we kind of were talking about potentially who was going to go there. I really like it overall because Janai I think we know what he is. He's obviously one of the best players in the country, if not the best player in the country last year. He fits an obvious need. They need rebounding defense, which is what he brings. He can protect the rim. He will clear the boards. He does have the ability to step out and shoot. I know some people might have got enamored with the occasional kind of like very ill-advised, like step back or between the legs, very slow-footed three-point shot he would attempt. He won't be doing that in the NBA. I think my biggest issue with the pick is nothing to do with Janai, because again, I think he gives the Warriors an instant guy that can absorb minutes for them. It's just at some point I do question if this is a viable strategy for them, because this will now be the third draft in a row where they draft a center with a late pick and just try to just manufacture minutes from guys. They did it with Trace. They did it with Post, and now they, in theory, would be doing it with Broome. And the problem is it hasn't really worked every time. I still think Trace was great value, but then they kind of pushed him out just as he was kind of getting comfortable because Post's ability to shoot. I have a lot of issues with Post in terms of like I think he competes on defense, but he's a liability in a lot of ways. And now you're bringing in Janai, which again he's going to be a flawed center. So at some point, I do think the Warriors have to maybe bite the bullet and either just accept that Draymond Green is going to die, like down low. Like one game, he's just going to drop dead after guarding Jokic for like 35 minutes. Like it can happen, or they have to really figure out a proper answer to that question. But I still like it. I mean, you're getting again a guy who orchestrated one of the best regular seasons we saw in college basketball. A guy who was, in my opinion, the player of the year. Again, if you hate him, he's the second best player in the country. and you're adding him to a team that needs winning and needs guys who can step into roles right away. So I think that's a match made in heaven. It's more of just a critique on the Warriors' thought process at like how they're just trying to mesh center positions up with these college guys and figure it out from there.
Joey, what are your thoughts on these last 19 picks?
I think right off the bat, what I see is I really like Sion James. I think he's a really underrated wing role player. You know, I mean, Duke was so stacked. I think he just didn't really get to shine. But and especially if he ends up on the Thunder where he's mocked, you know, a few years down the line, there are going to be a lot of offensive wings that are going to be so mad that OKC got their hands on another one of these guys. He's a great defender, just really solid role player. His three-point shot is solid. He just plays the game the right way. I mean, it's all those Duke guys. Like, I think that's like how they say that, like, you know, you can never go wrong taking a Kentucky guard. I don't think you can go wrong taking anyone from this Duke roster. So I like the Sion James pick a lot, especially to the Thunder. I really like the John Tonji pick. That was mine, but I think if you told me that one of these guys in the second round is going to go on to average like 25 a game, become a superstar, I think Tonji would probably be my one of, if not my first pick. I think he does have that ability, you know, going this late, going to a team as stacked as the Grizzlies. Maybe not, but what I like that he provides is the Grizzlies and a lot of teams, you know, they have these 3-and-D wings, right? The Grizzlies have Wells, Caldwell Pope, Kennard, but not someone that can come off the bench and create their own shot. Those are more guys that are going to sit in the corner, sit in the wing. You know, Tanji can come in, he can put the ball on the floor, and he can create shots on his own. And he also has that 3-and-D ability in the meantime, you know, so he can kind of develop into becoming a better shot creator, you know, start out, you know, sitting in the corner. And then, you know, as he gains trust within the organization, he could build from there. I think he's a solid defender. He's a 3-level scorer. He can get to the basket really well. We saw it in March Madness, how good he could be with the ball in his hands. And then I also really like the Ryan Nembhard pick. And it'd just be really fun to see him play with his brother in Indiana. And the last guy I want to mention was Grant Nelson. He's kind of goes against my own logic of the really lanky guys that can't shoot. Usually I'm against those guys, but I don't know. There's just something about, I think just because of how much I like the Alabama offense and Nate Oates, I've been watching him for years, and I just feel like some of these international guys, I don't really like, I don't know if I trust like Assange's shot to develop. But I really think Nelson can add a solid shot, and he adds so much. His versatility, his length, his shot blocking. He's just such an impact guy and such an energy guy. If the three falls, he does go this late in the draft. I mean, if the three is falling, he's going to be a rotation player. So I think that could be a huge steal this late.
Okay. Cam, Joey said if there was a star in this last 19 picks, he thought it was John Tanji. If I had to make a pick, I would probably say Hunter Salas. If you had to make a pick, Cam, who would it be?
Ilias Kamardine, who's not on anybody on Earth's board except for mine and maybe now yours, Rich.
Oh, no, he's on mine.
Maybe not on your mock. He's higher on my mock.
Right.
This guy, I started scouting. We were looking at international prospects, and I ended up drawing all the French guys. And I'm just enamored with what he can do with the ball in his hands. He was the U20 national team MVP in a championship run. By the way, his running mate on that team was Maxime Reynaud, who now we're talking about as like a borderline first round pick. Kamardine was the best player on their team in that playoff run. Kind of an up and down season at Dijon. They kind of wavered between giving him a lot of responsibility and kind of backing off from that. But when they give him more on-ball opportunities, he tends to thrive. I really like his shooting upside. I think this guy is one of the best 3-point creators. really like in the draft, in my opinion, at a guard spot. He's got a good frame. He's 6'4" and reported around a 6'10" wingspan. So he's got
he
really
looks
long arms.
long. He looks long.
When you watch him play, it's like, oh my God, did he really just dunk that? He's kind of one of those guys where it sneaks up on you. I really love.
But you also see it defensively, like when he spreads his wings,
he's averaged over 2 steals a game for 2 seasons now in the French league. He is really good in the passing lanes. He's got great anticipation. As an on-ball defender, he can kind of waver at times. But when you watch him and he's really engaged, especially with national team play, he's a really good one-on-one defender. I love his creation, and I just don't like at this point in the draft. There's like no reason in my perspective, to not take a swing at him, especially since he's in the draft regardless. He's 21 years old. He is in theory going to Ole Miss next year, but we've kind of had some question marks of whether or not he's signed or if he's officially going or not.
No. I know he's not officially a scholarship.
He's not officially signed.
Not a scholarship.
I guess realistically, they probably have to wait to do anything until after the draft anyway. But to me, it's like this is a guy that could go to Ole Miss next year and average 20 points a game with full keys to the offense, and selecting him now at a huge discount is just more than you can ask at pick 45, in my opinion. Some other guys that I love at this point in the draft.
The NBA doesn't give if we're thinking about him being a draft and stash college player, the NBA would be fine with that. That's not against NBA rules. But the question is...
Yeah, it's a question mark. What happens with the NCAA?
What would the NCAA say? Now, he wouldn't be a pro because he wouldn't be signed in a contract. Well, also, he's been a pro already. So they're letting pros play now. So I don't see why the NCAA would say, no, you can't have a guy who's been drafted play college ball. But he potentially could be the first ever draft and stash college player. So go on.
That'd be pretty cool.
Would be.
A couple other guys that I really like at this point in the draft. I like the upside of Rocco Zikarsky. I think, a guy his size, he's not a complete stiff. Like we've said with guys like Behringer, it's like, worst case you're a bust and you're off of my roster in a year or two, or you play a lot of G League minutes, and best case I've got my rotation back up big for the next few years. Maybe you get really lucky and his skills kind of blossom. So I think Zikarsky's a nice value pick at this point in the draft. Almanza is a super weird prospect for me. We've been talking about him for like 3-4 years now, it feels like.
Yeah, well, when he was playing for over...
Yeah, actually, you probably have, yeah.
Did he start at Overtime Elite and then go to Ignite?
He did. Yeah, it was over OTE, Ignite, and then I think he might have gone back to Spain for a little bit, and then he dipped to Australia.
Well, yeah, he's been playing on the national team forever. If Spain, I mean, not the senior team, but the under whatever age he's under. You know what I mean? The under 20, under 19.
He's a offensive Brandon Clark. Like he has that weird kind of like power forward floater game. He's a funky fit, but I think if he lands with the right team, he could turn into something kind of interesting. And then, Grant Nelson's been my little boy blue for like 2.5 years now at this point. Like I love Grant Nelson. I think, you get him at 53, you might get nothing. You might just have like a crazy G League player that wins like G League MVP a few times in his career. Maybe he has a great overseas career, but I think he has a ton of potential to pop at the NBA level. And to get a guy with that kind of upside at 53 is kind of insane. I love his ball skills at his size. He competes on defense. He's a pretty good rebounder, not an excellent rebounder, but he competes again. And again, if the jump shot ever develops, he is a rotation player at the minimum in the NBA. Maybe he'll have some fit issues depending on roster, but I really like Nelson at this point in the draft.
Drew, I didn't give you a chance to pick who you thought out of these last 19 picks has the best chance to be let's say a really good, maybe not a star, but a really good NBA player.
I think the Salas pick would have been mine. Just having watched him a lot, I think he has I think the scoring is there. It's just can he do more? Like I feel like him putting the ball in the bucket, he'll be able to figure out how to do that. It's just can he become like at least a combo guard? I'm not looking at him to become like a 6-7 assist a game kind of guy, but can he keep defenses honest with his playmaking? And I feel like this is any guy in the second round. I feel like for the most part, they're either elite shooters that do nothing else, or we have a huge question. Like there's a question mark around the jumper, and that's like the same thing for him. Like can he consistently spread the floor? But I've been watching this kid since he was 18 years old. At Gonzaga, saw him go from kind of a defensive guy to really blossom as an offensive player who took more of a backseat on defense. So if he can combine kind of those two career arcs for him, I think he'll be okay. And just get comfortable with the ball in his hands when he is asked to do more than just try to, get downhill into that mid-range or at the basket. But I'll go with Hunter Salas as the guy that I think has the best chance of becoming like a pretty high-level dude in the NBA.
All right. And to wrap this up, I just want to mention, see, we use, as a general guide, we use a collective draft board, which has not only my draft board, but other sites' draft boards, just to get a sense where the consensus thought is. And we kind of use that kind of like it's a tiebreaker or a guide. I don't know how you want to look at it, but the best on this board that were not drafted: Eric Dixon at Villanova forward. Dink Pate played for the Mexico City in the G League this year. Bryce Williams of Nebraska, Mark Sears of Alabama, Kobe Saunders of Nevada, Amari Williams of Kentucky, and Cam's favorite player of all time, Vlad Golden of Michigan. So, gentlemen, it's been a long show. May have to split this up in parts. But we'll go up in the same day, but may have to do it in two pieces. But any final thoughts before we won't get together again until after the draft, handing out those draft grades. So
the group chat will be popping, I'm sure.
Oh yes.
I would like to say the Celtics teardown has officially begun. Drew Holiday is on the move to Portland for Anthony Simons and 2 second-round picks.
Whoa.
Second-round picks in this draft?
It doesn't specify. It just says 2 second-round picks.
Did they really reroute him back to Portland?
So, yeah.
That's crazy.
Drew Holiday to the Trailblazers.
To play for Portland.
So, that's I'm like, at this point in his, he has to suit up now. Like, anything otherwise is like laughing at destiny. But yeah, just wanted to put that out there. But looking forward to the draft, gentlemen. I'm glad it's not on Thursday because I don't want to be on an airplane. I want to be able to actually watch it and absorb it.
Well, the second round's on Thursday.
I'll follow along with that, but right. I want to see the first round because we all know there'll be at least 3 or 4 picks in the first round that make it go.
The way they did the second round, like in a little corner of a restaurant or something. It was depressing. It was like all those guys wanted to be taken in the.
But
it's like, what are you doing? I don't like the NBA draft being in 2 rounds. It's just
it's so dumb.
Yes, so the NFL draft lasts like 2 weeks, and the NBA draft. Why does it have to last this long? Anyway, all right. No more final thoughts.
One guy we didn't mention, I think Sean Padula could be like a second round. Absolutely, he's gonna be a TJ McConnell.
He's a dog, man.
I love Sean
Really
Payton.
does.
I literally think I texted. I forget which pick. It might have been the
Yeah,
last
we
one.
almost picked him with the final pick.
I think with the last pick, I texted. I was like,
Thought
my
about
heart tells me Sean Padula, but I feel like the need is probably a little bit more Ulbrich. But man, that
He'll
dude,
make
dude's fun.
he'll
as hell.
make a roster as an undrafted guy.
Oh yeah,
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
He literally has he has, in my opinion, like a McConnell or like one of the Spencer brothers kind of vibe, where it's just he's gonna just will his way onto a roster, and everyone's gonna be like, all right, this dude's all right. We just got to keep him around because this dude's all right.
He's just gonna out hustle people.
Yeah.
And he's got game too. He can
He can hoop.
He can pass.
He can hoop. He can absolutely hoop.
Hmm.
All right, gentlemen,
All right, guys.
we will reconvene next week to hand out our draft grades. And I will tell you this: we're not like one of these sites where the worst grade you can get is a C. No, 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 no. We nail you. If you did crap in the draft, you get nailed on this site.
We will fail you. No questions asked.
Yes, we hand out as many F's as A's. All
When
right.
the Mavs inevitably trade that first overall pick for like 3 second rounders in 2044, are we going to invent a new letter grade? Because
I will send them
Z.
pick 3, Joel Embiid and Paul George for that first pick.
You gotta take Kyrie though.
yeah.
Oh no.
Oh, it gets interesting.
All right, I'll do it.
All right. All right, guys.
All right, guys. See you next week.
Sharp right. Listen. Sammy, you have to listen to my call, Sammy. Please, I beg you. Fast, medium right. You have to turn the wheel, Sammy. 40, fast, medium left. 50, downhill, triple caution. Stay center.